My greetings to all of you.
On the dais, we have Honorable Governor, who has been member of Lok Sabha
7 terms. We have
Amrish Bhai Rasiklal Patel, 6 terms, MLA and MLC, and Mr. Praful Patel in double digit. 4 times Lok Sabha, 6 times Rajya Sabha, and still counting. Sri Ramesh Baisi, the Honorable Governor, has also been a minister. Amrish Bhai Rasiklal Patel ji also has been a minister. Praful ji has also been a minister. In this daunting atmosphere, I have been member of Lok Sabha only once. And there also I was deprived of the opportunity of being ex-member because our term did not complete, so I became ex-member. But I had the occasion to be minister for some time. So we share one common flavor. The Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ramesh Bhatt, I heard him very patiently. He has traversed all that is taking place. It is soothing to note. And no doubt the Institute will be on incremental trajectory. We have Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sharad Maheskar. I should not forget Dr. Sudesh Dhankad. She shares one thing in common with Amrish Bhaiji. She has done her PhD in water management. And there are a number of occasions every day when I am cautioned I cannot leave a drop of water in the glass. Well, that compromises my human rights in some measure, but then that is for interest of larger humanity. Distinguished members of the faculty, members of the staff, and dear students.
Yeah, it's fine.
Which means I should be erect. Well, Amrish Bhaiji does not need any test for his spine. He comes from a very distinguished lineage. Sardar Patel ji stands in this country as the tallest leader with a great spine and made India what it is. For the benefit of young boys and girls, let me tell you, Sardar Patel ji was entrusted with the task of putting various states into Bharat, India. He did it remarkably well, efficiently, but one state was kept out of his purview, state of Jammu and Kashmir. That became a problem. Which means Dr. Sardar Patel ji provides solution, quick solution, lasting solution. Difficult situations he tackled seamlessly. Another instance, Dr. Ambedkar was chairman of the drafting committee, father of our Indian Constitution, did remarkably good job. He drafted all the articles of the Constitution except Article 370. So these two very distinguished people, if Dr. Ambedkar had drafted Article 370, or Sardar Patel ji had been given also the job of integration of state of Jammu and Kashmir, things would have been very different. Let me take you to historical perspective, then I'll come to the subject. In 1963, in Parliament, the then Prime Minister, the first Prime Minister of the country, a question came up how long Article 370 will last. Because it is the only article in the Indian Constitution which is labeled as temporary. Many for reasons believed it is permanent. Now no longer in our Constitution, thankfully, thanks to parliamentarians like him. I salute all the parliamentarians who in one voice took note of it. But Pandit ji then said, "Ghiste, ghiste, ghis jayega." I'm quoting him about Article 370. We have seen it. Article 370 ने हमको बहुत घिसाया, घिसाते ही गए, till we had a dispensation that dispensed with Article 370. I am deeply honored to be amongst you all, and the subject is of contemporaneous relevance. It is pivotal to the future of our great nation, empowering India. The role of higher education in Viksit Bharat by 2047. I must express my deep sense of gratitude to Praful Patel ji that he made me fully aware of the well-recognized stature of this institute. And that was not recently, but about 6 months back. I therefore made it a point that on my next visit to Mumbai, I will try to avail an opportunity and a sense of gratitude to the Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor for affording me this great opportunity. This institute has been nurturing leaders of tomorrow, as was indicated by the Vice Chancellor. The alumni, they are spread over entire globe. Setting benchmarks in management studies. This institute, I have no doubt, is a crucible of change. It catalyzes big change, and a big change that goes to the benefit of empowering our Bharat, home to 1/6 of humanity. Your commitment to academic rigor and innovation is commendable. It was indicated by the Vice Chancellor. And I am thrilled, therefore, to be amongst you all. Since the times of Vedic civilization, India has been home to some of the finest, well-renowned institutions, universities, Nalanda, Takshila, Vikramshila, Vallabhi, to name just a few. Because of these institutions, India was a knowledge powerhouse. Because of these institutions, India then had great soft power in diplomacy. Our trade went in a different direction because of these institutions. And therefore, higher education bears critical relevance to development of a nation and empowering it. These universities, Nalanda, Takshila, were repositories of our age-old values and wisdom and provided direction for wholesome evolution of society. Where you have institutions of this caliber, the flavor of the society, the flavor of the entire ecosystem is soothing, wholesome, and full of positivity. You get to feel hope and possibility. These resource centers were linked between exalted ideals and pragmatic exigencies of life, a neat balance. Now with the introduction of new education policy, and that came after 3 decades, several 100,000 stakeholders' views were taken into consideration. And it was emphasized that it should not be degree-oriented. It must reflect something more that makes a person really in a satisfaction mode to contribute as per his attitude. Friends, I have firmly believed, and I have experienced it, because my education was propelled by scholarship. From a village, small village, I could go to Sunday school only on account of scholarship. I believe education is the most impactful transformational mechanism of securing first equality and second, containing, decimating inequities. Education does wonders, and quality education makes things geometric, not arithmetic. Power to empower emanates from education, and that power is of the nation also, apart from society and the individual. Education facilitates unleashing of your potential, exploitation of a talent, and it becomes a conveyance, a vehicle to realize your dreams and aspirations. Education is the driving force that empowers individuals, fosters innovation, and propels economic growth by contributing to productivity and innovation that enables the nation and society to grow incrementally. In a sense, education is both personal empowerment and a cornerstone of community development, fostering brighter future and social harmony. You may have several positions, wealth, house, car. That is individual in nature. Education is not. It empowers you. Simultaneously, it helps everyone else. You are educated, the benefit accrues to the entire people around you and the society. Now, if education is quality education, things are very different. Then the human resource is sharpened to face any challenges and convert challenges into opportunities for larger welfare. And higher education, according to me, is fundamental to sustain our economic upsurge, to register social progress of the kind we aspire, something to attain like utopian society. Quality education helps fire all cylinders of the engine, and there is good productivity. We have potential. India was taken to be a sleeping giant, not any longer. We are on the move. Our rise is incremental, unstoppable, and getting accolades from global institutions. But what do our youth need? You have quality education. But you suffer certain drawbacks. And drawbacks are, you are really meritorious, but you find the system promotes patronage, favoritism, nepotism, and corruption becomes a password for securing a job, an appointment, or an opportunity. When you move out with your credentials that are illustrious, you find privileged pedigree marching ahead. Being made to march ahead, and you look, this generates despondency. This runs down the nation. That system was there. Not long ago, our power corridors were infested with liaison agents, corrupt elements. They extra legally leveraged decision making. An opportunity, a job, a contract would come through a passage that was corrupt. Liaison agents were there. Another thing, promising talented boys and girls what they want equality before law. They are in deep pain that we live in a democracy when some are so privileged to be above law, not amenable to law. The strong arm of law does not reach them. So these things were holding us back. But now, in last decade or so, as a result of affirmative government policies, initiatives and innovative steps, an ecosystem is in place where our youth can have full play in their joints. They can fully expand their potential. And this is because now our power corridors are sanitized of corrupt elements. I am sure youngsters will have no occasion to see what we have seen. The institution of lies and agents, which was indispensable, is now extinct, beyond revival. Equality before law, that eluded us for long, that was bane of our system, is a ground reality. We see day in, day out, people who entertain the idea, they are beyond the reach of law. They are immune from legal process, are suffering the heat of law, suffering the heat of system. Then, with this ecosystem, you will be marching into the world. You will be taking a big leap. Imagine, with this quality of education, with these credentials, the reputation of an institution, and a system outside. Nothing can be more soothing for you. The entire world is before you. Number of vistas of opportunities. I therefore appeal to all of you. Get out of silos. We are not fully exposed to the kind of opportunities that are available to our youth. We still are in a groove of competitive examinations. And what was conventional? Things are changing as much as energy has changed. Now the non-conventional sources of energy match the non-conventional sources of opportunities for our youth. I would urge you to look beyond what is visible, and you will find you will have opportunities in space, in every walk of life. Disruptive technologies, I'll come to that later, afford you opportunities of development of a dimension which is unbelievable. My young friends, respect for law is a respect for nationalism. Respect for law is respect for democracy, and respect for law is respect for meritocracy. And therefore, we must always believe in being on the right side of law. Let me give you a small suggestion. A shortcut is the shortest distance physically between 2 points. But on the day of reckoning, if the shortcut is not lawful, it turns out to be painful and longest distance. So never take shortcuts in life. Let me tell you, those on the dais know it. 1989, I started my political career, and around the same time, in the same Lok Sabha, the Honorable Governor was there. In 1990, Amrish Bhai started. In 1991, Mr. Praful Patel started, still counting. Still counting because he's Patel. And he must have indicated to you by his address what a difficult situation I face in the House. But that apart, now look at the scene in 1990. I was a Union Minister. Size of our economy was less than that of cities of Paris and London. Where are we now? In last decade, we have traveled from notch number 11 to be 5th largest global economy, and ahead of UK and France, because then we were behind Paris and London. That's a big change. During that time, our gold of Bharat, gold of that nation, which was known earlier as Sone ki Chidiya, was taken in an aircraft physically to be pledged to two banks in Switzerland because our foreign exchange was around $1 billion. Now it is more than $60 billion. I had the occasion then as a minister to go to Jammu and Kashmir, Centaur Hotel. There was deathly silence. Just imagine after removing Article 370, a temporary article from our constitution, we had tourists in thousands.
Lakhs now.
Lakhs, you are right, million also as a matter. Now, here comes a catch. Media will report an incident. I don't know why people do not appreciate that India globally at the moment is favorite destination of investment and opportunity according to IMF. According to World Bank, our digitization is worth emulation by others. It's a role model. We are breathing in an atmosphere which is not despondent, not dragging us, is one of hope and possibility. And therefore, we must look at the grandiose achievements we have, the exponential, phenomenal rise in every sector. Could we ever imagine that in our Bharat, every house will have a toilet? Could we imagine that cooking gas will be available in that measure? The gentleman here, Mr. Praful Patel, and the Honorable Governor will bear me out. As members of Parliament, we had 50 gas connections a year. And we thought we were big power. We could distribute those 50 connections.
And 25 phone connections. Where have we come now? By millions, gas connections have been given free to needy households. And telephone, well, they persuade you to have a landline. They don't charge these days. We all had telephone in OIT category. Then, in late 80s, it was 5,000 rupees. A big change. So we have really come to a level where global institutions that were earlier trying to advise us now are seeking our advice. All this has taken place recently in a decade. When you have a political journey, that journey may have sometimes air pocket here and there. That air pocket doesn't disturb the destination or the flight trajectory. Trust me, next 5 years, India's rise will be like that which a rocket has beyond gravitational force. The rocket took off. And you know, when a rocket takes off, huge power is required. That was there a decade ago. 5 years later, the rocket left gravitational force. And now the rocket is in space. And that is why the entire world says, looks up to India. My young friends, just look at what has happened in G20. G20 functions were held in every state and every union territory. The main function was in Bharat Mandapam. I'm used to it. It happens quite often in Parliament. It happens. Bharat Mandapam, a convention center of world repute. We had P20 Parliament. World Parliaments met at Yashobhumi, meaning thereby we are really going
in big ticket achievements, infrastructure and otherwise. Friends, in the face of all these, you will find nefarious forces with pernicious design trying to set afloat a narrative to demean, taint, tarnish our institutions, run down our growth trajectory. Now you youngsters know it. Your silence may not be appropriate because it gives wings to these false narratives. We must neutralize these narratives because the ground reality is so very different. Sometimes I'm amazed that people quote and it picks up fast. Some agency in the globe has said about India hunger status. My goodness, I was governor of state of West Bengal. The way we faced COVID, we helped 100 nations. There were some in the country who sounded alarming bells wrongly. The leadership of the country took initiatives, innovative steps. We became the only country that gave digital certificate. Similarly, we have to be on guard that from 1st April 2020, to be precise, 850 million people of this country are getting free food, ration and dal. Imagine. And it will continue for 5 years. How can there be a challenge in this country? Now some people who always look for negativity say, oh, 850 million people are being so fed, so the country must be poor. No. This is hand-holding. This is hand-holding so that they march to the upper slot. But that speaks of the strength our nation has. Friends, our progress at the moment is galloping. Cutting edge can be given only by higher education. Power of a nation is decided by progress of its technological innovations. And that takes place in institutions of eminence like you. I would appeal from this platform, our corporates should come forward. They should handhold these institutions. They must nurture them so that innovation and research take place. These institutions must be laboratories for innovation and research, and thereby they will become crucibles of change. 2047 is our target, but I have no doubt we will accomplish it much before that. Everyone in this room, particularly the youngsters, you are a great part of the marathon march for 2047. You are vital stakeholders in democratic governance of the nation. By 2047, you would be in driver's seat. And therefore, I have no doubt Bharat will regain what it had ages ago. Our concept of Viksit Bharat is not just a goal, it's a sacred mission. It calls every citizen to be vigilant and commit. ये एक ऐसा हवन है, इस हवन में हर किसी को आहुति देनी है, हर किसी का सहयोग होना है, पूर्ण आहुति होगी, उसमें सबकी भागीदारी होगी। ये हमने कर भी दिखाया है। Can you imagine in our country what was the stage of banking situation? I started my career by going to a bank and took a loan of 6,000 rupees. Opening a bank account was difficult. In 10 years,
500 million bank accounts. What a testament to inclusivity in society. And that is why I come from a farmer's family. More than 100 million farmers, 3 times a year, get amount in their account direct. I am not on the amount. I am not on the government capacity. I am on the capacity of the farmer. That a farmer has a bank account, the farmer can receive direct payments. And that is where our Bharat is going. That is the change people have to notice. Presently, there are many who are in cozy atmosphere and are not aware where our Bharat is going. Go to any village, as indicated by Praful Patelji, you will find digital connectivity, road connectivity, tap water, electricity. These are big changes. If you have to work from home, you can work from your home in a village also, because we are technologically enabled. Friends, a great beginning has been made. We have a resilient financial ecosystem. It is fueled by schemes. Mudra scheme. Just imagine, our women and girls have enormously benefited. 60% out of this. Huge amounts are available to them. Women empowerment is so fundamental to growth of society on the planet. But Bharat has taken a great step. In 2023, there will be vertical and horizontal reservation for women in Parliament, Lok Sabha, and state legislatures to the extent of 1/3. You must have witnessed Republic Day parade in 2024 on Kartavya Path. Our woman empowerment was blossoming. Bharat is defining woman empowerment and woman-led empowerment to the entire world. We have, as first citizen, a tribal lady. Imagine where we have come. Extremely talented, has seen great experience, ground reality. She is there. This is the big change that is coming. Each one of you, let me tell you, can unsettle the list of top corporates, because now we have in place new situations. If we go for, let's say, quantum computing, you will have much better idea. Our green hydrogen mission, something very different. Even 6G, the commercial part of it will start from 2025. And in all these things, my young friends, we are part of countries that are in single digit. All of you will be going to corporates or having your startups, but you will be helping the nation greatly if you please take into consideration some of my suggestions. I have urged parliamentarians on a number of occasions. Economic nationalism is fundamental to us. What a pain it is for us that for fiscal gain, we import kite, furniture, diya, toys, curtains. Should our country be importing items that are avoidable? We must have a policy to be vocal for local. We will be saving more than $100 billion in foreign exchange if we rigorously practice it. You will find at the root of it that those in business, industry, trade and commerce engage into imports only to see their profit goes up. In the process, they forget that the profit they are making is at the cost of indigenous labor, indigenous entrepreneurship, and draining out our precious foreign exchange. To the leader here, I especially appeal, please catalyze whirlwind of opinion. Why should our raw materials leave our shores?
without value addition. It is not a good reflection that iron ore is being so exported. We must add value to our produce. We must add value to our produce significantly if we have to empower our nation. And from that perspective, I will appeal to all of you. You can also in your life contribute, because when it comes to economic nationalism, it is twofold. One, the importer. Second, the consumer. We can be extremely alive, and I'm sure that will bring about a big change. Friends, we like it or not, disruptive technologies are with us. They have entered our home, they have entered our workplace. It is nothing short of a fourth industrial revolution. Because of these technologies, we are at the cusp of a big change, a change that will startle us. There are challenges and opportunities. Impressionable minds like you can convert these challenges into opportunities. Artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, blockchain are not defined by lexicon words. You have to go deep into it. I was myself startled at the enormous potential that is there when I got a presentation from the experts. You can handle it, because in whatever walk of life you go, you will be contributing massively. Therefore, your learning doesn't stop once you walk out of this institution. Your learning is lifelong. And as human resource of the largest democracy, mother of democracy, you have to be ahead of the others in the world. I have no doubt our genius is defined by our history and civilizational depth of 5,000 years. I can say, without fear of contradiction, this century belongs to Bharat. Look at what we did in G20. I'll take you to 3 decisions, fundamental. 1, European Union was already part of G20, and the countries of the European Union had colonized other countries by and large. It was in Bharat, at the initiative of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that African Union was made a part of G20, a big thing. Another landmark decision. Global South constitutes a huge chunk of population and GDP of the world. It was unknown to the world. Prime Minister Modi took the initiative, and Bharat became the voice of Global South. It is now at center stage. And third, ages back, centuries back, we had trade with other countries through land and sea. That route has been formalized. It is a matter of time it will be functional. Enormous opportunities for all of you. Friends, you are not part of the privileged pedigree. You are the privileged. You are the privileged defined by your merit, by your attainment of skill. And therefore it lies that you not only work for yourself, but you handhold others also. In your own life, if you make it a mission, you can certainly create a wave that, yes, I undertake to inspire, motivate, energize at least 2 persons. That will go a long way. Dear friends, when I look at young people, particularly institutions of your category, here I am interacting with you one way. But when I have the occasion to interact both sides, I am unreached, I am enlightened, and I have no doubt our Bharat is on rise. I would suggest to Amrish Bhai ji and Praful Patel ji, I would be happy and delighted to ensure a visit of the students and faculty to new building of Parliament. I am the President of Indian Council of World Affairs. We will have an MOU with your institute in next 1 month. We don't have to define our progress in economic terms. But India's rise, let me tell you friends, is like a plateau. That plateau is defined because road connectivity to the villages, toilets, har ghar mein nal mein jal, digitization of the village, all the electricity, and now a new concept has come. You power yourself because government has come out with a scheme of solar power for every home. So I call upon industry, trade, business and commerce, their leadership, their associations to nurture the spirit of educational institutions, innovation, research, economic nationalism. These institutions must think beyond their normal working. When it comes to alumni, I have cherished an idea, and we have people here who can fructify it. We must have confederation of alumni associations. If we have alumni associations of prestigious institutions like yours, IITs, IIMs, we will have a think tank unmatched in the world, which can help us formulate policies. I am sure it will be taken note of. Friends, don't fear failure. Don't have stress. Don't have tension. Chandrayaan 3 would not have been a success but for Chandrayaan 2 effort. For some people, Chandrayaan 2 was a failure. I was Governor of the State of West Bengal. Chandrayaan 2 was to land around 2 a.m. Along with my wife, we went to Science City in Kolkata. 500 boys and girls were before us. It reached quite close to the lunar surface. Landing was not soft. Some thought it was failure. No, it was largely successful. Success of Chandrayaan 3 is firmed up on Chandrayaan 2. Therefore, if an idea occurs to you, don't allow your mind to be parking place for that idea. If you have a brilliant idea, it is parked in your mind, you don't act on it, you are doing a disfavor to yourself and also not favoring the society at large. So never fear failure. Friends, I think I have taken time more than I should have, but you don't have this kind of audience. It is like this. When the house is in decorum, the productivity is more. Dream big, think out of the box, because you are living in times when you can achieve anything. Let me end by saying one thing to you. Startups attract the attention of corporate giants. Startup is the brainwave of boys and girls like you. So you will be looked upon immediately. Think about it. I would end by quoting Chanakya, because we are speaking of education and empowerment of the nation. Chanakya said, I quote, "Education is the best friend. An educated person is respected everywhere," unquote. Couple it with what Swami Vivekananda said. Arise, I'm quoting him, arise, awake, and stop not until the goal is reached. I wish you, as part of the marathon march for Viksit Bharat, with full optimism and confidence that you will not reach it in 2047. You would draw that much before that. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.